Some preachers have tried to use this morning's parable found in verses 19 through 31 of the 16th chapter of Luke's Gospel to support their ideas of what the afterlife is like. Others have used it to condemn wealth. But I think it's more likely a story about poor eyesight. It's a story about how an anonymous rich man was spiritually blind. And as the story goes, it wasn't until his death that his vision problem was cleared up. But unfortunately for him, that was too late. Jesus introduces us to the rich man by describing him as a man who wore expensive clothes, who never went hungry, who rather ate to excess every day of his life, and who lived in a gated community. By contrast, he described the man Lazarus, who was poor, who was hungry, and who lived right outside the confines of the rich man's gated community. It's not that the rich man was unaware of Lazarus. He saw him every day that he left his home and when he returned. In fact, he was on a first-name basis with Lazarus. We know this because in the story after he died, he not only recognized Lazarus at the side of Father Abraham, but he called him by name. But my guess is that although the rich man knew who Lazarus was, he had never spent any time looking at Lazarus, really looking. Because I don't think he could have looked into the eyes of Lazarus for any length of time and still ignored his suffering. And so for all practical purposes, the man was a blind man. He was blind to the tragedy of the human condition that was embodied in the person of Lazarus. Not halfway across the world, not even within the dark alleys on the other side of town, but right under his nose, right outside his gates. The man was blind to human suffering, and that was his sin. His sin wasn't wealth, but his sin was that he chose to do nothing about human suffering. According to the research to prevent blindness, there are 15 million blind and visually impaired people in the United States. On the average, every 7 minutes, a person in the United States loses their sight. That's a lot of people. But I think the numbers are even larger than that for the people who, like the rich man in this morning's parable, are spiritually blind. People who close their eyes, making excuses why they can't do anything about the suffering right outside their doors, when in fact they can. People who congratulate themselves for giving Lazarus crumbs from their table while they continue to feast sumptuously every day. People who are blind to the human suffering that goes on all around us. So I want to spend the rest of our time together talking about how we can prevent blindness. And you may find it surprising that the same sort of things we do to prevent physical blindness can also help to prevent spiritual blindness. One of the first things we need to remember when we go outside is to protect our eyes from sun's harmful ultraviolet rays. And we can protect our eyes from the glare of the sun by wearing sunglasses. Never look directly into the sun or other bright light, regardless of how attractive they may be. Bright lights may draw our attention, but prolonged exposure to them can be harmful. There are some things in life that draw our attention too. They can be amusing distractions from what we have come to think of as our boring, humdrum lives. but left unchecked, these things can become obsessions. And over time, excessive exposure to them will inevitably damage our spiritual vision. Money is one of those things that's very attractive. Like sunlight, though, if we go without it, we can die. Money pays the bills. It puts food on the table. We need money to live. But if we spend too much time looking at it, we can go blind. If we believe that all our problems will be solved if we only have more money, we're operating out of blindness. If we say to our sister or brother in need, I can't afford to help you because I won't have enough for myself, then we're living in spiritual darkness and we are blind. And so we've got to learn to do what we can to protect ourselves from spiritual blindness. Just as sunglasses filter out the sun's harmful light, we need to learn to protect ourselves from the harmful untruths that are associated with money. One of those untruths is that money will provide us with long-term happiness and security. Only we can provide happiness for ourselves. Some of the most unhappy and insecure people I know have a lot of money. In fact, they are unhappy and insecure because they have a lot of money. Their lives are filled with fear and worry about holding on to the money that they already have. Happiness occurs when you share your money or your time with others who are in need. When you're able to do this, you're doing the work to prevent spiritual blindness. You've managed to filter out the harmful untruths about money and are able to take advantage of the good things that money can accomplish.